I don't know what to say, man. I've been laid up for like fucking 6 years. And it's so, you've got no idea how I feel. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And unfortunately, we come to our final song for ever.
Ozzy Osbourne is dead, and with him, a lifetime of demons, defiance, and dark secrets. The man who once bit the head off a bat on stage didn't go out with a roar, but with haunting final words that left even those closest to him shaken. He didn't just leave behind a legacy, he left behind a mystery. Worshipped by millions, feared by many, and misunderstood by most, Ozzy carried chilling secrets to his grave. From arrests and near-death overdoses to disturbing allegations that shadowed him for decades, his troubled past still haunts his legacy. But was his death truly the end of a rock legend, or the final chapter in a story darker than anyone imagined?
This was my final performance. I have to say goodbye to the stage. I've loved all my life. I'm truly sorry I could only do this show strapped into a custom chair, because my body just couldn't handle it anymore. My Parkinson's has reached stage 5. Honestly, I'm not doing well. I spent a long time preparing for this concert. Afraid I wouldn't be able to finish it. Afraid I'd let you down. To stay sharp, I stopped taking all painkillers.
Ozzy Osbourne was no stranger to controversy. From his drug-fueled days with Black Sabbath to his unpredictable reality TV years, his life was a non-stop roller coaster of madness and mayhem. But even with all the outrageous headlines and jaw-dropping moments, there was something deeper, something darker, lurking behind his heavy eyeliner and wild public persona. Before his passing, Ozzy reportedly confided in a handful of people about a haunting secret that had tormented him for decades. Whispers of guilt, fear, and unresolved trauma followed him everywhere. And while the world saw him as the wild man of rock, those closest to Ozzy say he was a man haunted by something he couldn't undo, a secret that, even in his final days, he struggled to accept. Now, in the wake of his death, insiders and former friends are stepping forward, revealing shocking pieces of a truth that Ozzy took to his grave. Ozzy Osbourne wasn't just the Prince of Darkness on stage. Offstage, his life often mirrored the chaos, the shadows, and the deep psychological torment that his music embodied. Born into a working-class neighborhood in Aston, Birmingham, Ozzy grew up surrounded by poverty, noise, and dysfunction. His father was a strict toolmaker, his mother a tired factory worker. From a young age, Ozzy struggled to find stability, grappling with dyslexia, undiagnosed mental health issues, and a crushing sense of inadequacy. By the time he reached adolescence, he was already sinking. Petty theft, truancy, and trouble with the law became routine. He served time in Winson Green Prison for burglary, an experience that scarred him deeply.
I didn't know what they were talking about.
What happened? Do you remember any of that?
I don't remember any of it. I can remember going to a restaurant, and that's about it.
It was behind those prison walls that the darkness inside him began to fester, pain he would carry like a shadow through his entire life. When Black Sabbath was formed in the late 60s, Ozzy became the unexpected voice of a generation craving something darker, something real. But success didn't heal his wounds. It magnified them. Fame, money, and attention became both a drug and a curse. He spiraled into severe substance addiction, sometimes mixing alcohol, cocaine, and prescription drugs until he blacked out for days. But as the fame grew, so did the whispers, and eventually, the accusations. Behind the scenes, many claimed Ozzy was not just battling demons, he was enabling them. Former bandmates and industry insiders began to talk about the volatile outbursts, the substance-fueled breakdowns, and his unpredictable behavior behind closed doors. At times, his rage would spill over into violence. In 1989, Ozzy made headlines when he was arrested for attempting to kill his wife, Sharon, while under the influence.
I was downstairs, he was up. Suddenly he comes downstairs a couple of hours later. He just said, "We've made a decision." And I'm like, "We've?" "Yes, and you've got to die." And I'm like, "Okay." He lunged on me and, got me down to the floor and started strangling me.
How close did it get?
Pretty damn close.
Though she forgave him, many began to question just how deep his darkness went. Later interviews with crew members, ex-associates, and even former girlfriends painted a disturbing picture. Women left bruised, assistants terrified of his sudden mood swings, and a trail of emotional wreckage that often got swept under the rug in the name of rock and roll. Some alleged he had a habit of emotionally manipulating those closest to him, alternating between childlike helplessness and uncontrollable aggression. Others said that his power and fame often shielded him from real consequences. And then there were the most disturbing allegations, the ones that were never proven, but never entirely denied either. Rumors swirled about strange rituals backstage, disturbing behavior involving groupies, and deep psychological control exerted over bandmates and staff. Some whispered about long-forgotten tour incidents swept under the rug by managers and record labels desperate to protect Ozzy's image. These stories were never front-page news, but they haunted corners of the industry like ghosts no one wanted to acknowledge. Even Sharon Osbourne, his wife and manager, eventually admitted on national television that there were times she feared for her life. She once said, "You don't know what you're going to get with Ozzy. He's sweet one minute, monstrous the next." Despite everything, Ozzy remained a beloved public figure. To fans, he was the lovable madman, the aging rocker who had cheated death too many times to count. But to those who saw behind the curtain, the picture was far more complex and far more troubling. Now, with his passing and whispers of what he said on his deathbed beginning to surface, many are asking, did Ozzy carry a terrible secret to the grave? Did his final words reveal the weight of guilt from a life lived on the edge of destruction? And perhaps most haunting of all, what were the truths that never made the headlines?
I think Sharon knew something about his health. Maybe he even knew. I mean, a lot of people are saying this is like you walking into the sunset, going away, saying goodbye, leaving as an icon, leaving as a legend. But we all know this is an energy harvest, and tomorrow new songs, a new catalog of music, probably 200 songs, are going to be released. There's going to be book deals, all this stuff. This is just how Hollywood goes. His death was an energy harvest from the Hollywood elites.
For decades, whispers followed Ozzy Osbourne, not just of drugs, demons, and destruction, but of something far deeper. Some believe Ozzy didn't just stumble into fame, he invited it and paid a heavy price. The theory goes, after being kicked out of Black Sabbath in 1979, Ozzy was a broken man, addicted, broke, and lost. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, he made a legendary comeback with the Blizzard of Oz. This rebirth, so sudden and so successful, sparked rumors of a Faustian bargain, a deal with the devil for fame and fortune. Fans point to the eerie imagery in his music, from crosses and pentagrams to his obsession with death and madness. His concerts were theatrical and dark, biting off the head of a bat, screaming like a man possessed. Some believe this was more than stage presence, it was a warning. And as Ozzy's fame soared, his life spiraled into tragedy. Friends died, his body deteriorated, his mind broke down. Was this all just coincidence or part of the price? Ozzy's erratic behavior wasn't just wild rock star energy, it was haunting. There were times he'd blank out, forget entire days, or say things in interviews he didn't remember later. Some believe Ozzy was not just a troubled artist, but a victim of mind control. This theory links him to MK-Ultra, a real CIA program that experimented on people using drugs, hypnosis, and trauma to create psychological puppets. Conspiracy theorists argue that Ozzy's blackouts, his possessed performances, and his violent episodes, like the night he tried to kill Sharon, weren't just drug-induced. They were signs of control. Supporters say Ozzy's memory loss and unpredictable switches in personality may have been the result of conditioning, and that his managers and handlers, even Sharon, knew more than they let on. Was he ever truly in control of himself? Or was he a product of an industry that feeds off broken minds? Sharon Osbourne, Ozzy's wife, manager, and fierce protector, stood by him through every scandal. But some believe her silence and loyalty weren't always about love. They were strategic. According to this theory, Sharon played a calculated role in shaping Ozzy's image, hiding the most disturbing parts of his behavior to preserve the brand. She cleaned up messes, silenced scandals, and knew exactly what was at stake. When Ozzy tried to strangle her in 1989, she didn't leave. Instead, she covered it up and kept managing his career. Insiders have claimed that Sharon was the one pulling the strings behind the curtain, making sure the world only saw the parts of Ozzy that could sell. Fans wonder, how much did she know? And how much did she hide to protect not just Ozzy, but herself?
Why did you stay?
Because, people, at the time that we got married, people would look at Ozzy and they'd look at me and they'd think, oh, she's so straight. She's so like housewifey. What's the connection here? With the way I'd been brought up, Ozzy was quite normal to me. I didn't think he was extreme in any way, and I loved him.
But has the domestic violence stopped?
Oh, absolutely.
Now I beat the shit out of him.
Ozzy wasn't the only one. Many legends of rock, from Kurt Cobain to Chester Bennington, died young, spiraled into madness, or lost themselves in addiction. Some fans believe there's a haunting curse attached to the world Ozzy helped build. The theory suggests that the fame Ozzy and others chased came with dark, spiritual energy, a force that fed off their pain. Ozzy's hallucinations, paranoia, and haunting lyrics weren't just artistic. They were signs of something he couldn't escape, something he invited in. He often spoke of hearing voices, seeing things in the dark, and waking up terrified, and not all of it could be blamed on drugs. Even in his final years, he confessed to feeling cursed and haunted. The rock lifestyle, once glamorized, seemed more like a path to spiritual decay, one Ozzy never truly left. Ozzy Osbourne's death marked the end of a haunted but iconic legacy. After decades of defying the odds, cheating death through addiction, accidents, and disease, his final days were quieter, filled not with chaos, but reflection, family, and an overwhelming sense of farewell. In the last weeks of his life, Ozzy's body was failing rapidly. Years of hard living had left their mark. His nervous system weakened by Parkinson's, his spine damaged beyond repair, and his immune system struggling to fight off infections. Despite multiple surgeries and treatments, his condition became irreversible. His body, once charged with electricity and rebellion, was now tired. So very tired. His family gathered around him in those final days, keeping things private. Sharon rarely left his side. Their children, Kelly, Jack, and Amy, came home. The house grew quiet, surrounded by security, yet humming with emotion behind closed doors. In his final hours, Ozzy was reportedly in and out of consciousness. At times, he mumbled lyrics to his own songs under his breath, fragments of "Mama, I'm Coming Home" and "Dreamer" echoing in the dimly lit room. His breathing had become shallow. Doctors said the end was near, but just before slipping away, Ozzy reportedly opened his eyes one last time. He looked at Sharon, the woman who had saved his life more than once, and whispered something soft, almost too faint to hear. According to those close to the family, his final words were, "I'm sorry for everything. Thank you for loving me. I'm ready now." Sharon held his hand tightly. Tears streamed down her face. Kelly rested her head on his chest. Jack stood silently, staring at the man who had once seemed indestructible. Then, with no dramatic gasp, no drawn-out struggle, just a long, quiet exhale, Ozzy Osbourne left this world. The Prince of Darkness, who had lived in chaos and noise for most of his life, died in silence, surrounded by love. He didn't go out with a bang. He went out with peace, something he had been chasing all along. Fans around the world were heartbroken. Social media flooded with emotional tributes, candle-lit photos, and throwback clips of Ozzy's most iconic moments. Many called him a true legend, while others expressed shock and sadness, saying it felt like the end of an era. Longtime followers thanked him for helping them through dark times with his music, calling his death the loss of a voice that understood pain. For millions, Ozzy wasn't just a rock star. He was a symbol of resilience, chaos, and raw emotion. Ozzy Osbourne was more than just a rock star. He was a symbol of survival, raw, broken, unfiltered, yet fiercely human. From the depths of addiction and scandal to the heights of global stardom, he never pretended to be perfect. He wore his darkness like armor, turning pain into music that echoed across generations. He gave us chaos, but also vulnerability. He shocked the world, but he also made it feel something real. Through the slurred interviews, wild antics, and haunting ballads, Ozzy reminded us that even the most troubled souls deserve love, redemption, and peace. In the end, he died not as the madman people once labeled him, but as a man who had loved, suffered, changed, and finally found quiet. Legends don't die, they echo. And Ozzy's voice, his pain, and his story will continue to thunder through speakers, hearts, and memories around the world. This was the life and final goodbye of Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness who taught us that even in the darkest hours, there is still music, and there is still light. Rest in peace, Ozzy. You were never meant to be understood, only remembered.